Tonight, confusion and frustration growing as Texas's contentious immigration law remains in legal limbo. An appeals court temporarily blocking the legislation just hours after the Supreme Court said it could take effect. Judges appearing skeptical on the Lone Star State's arguments, the law allowing police officers to arrest migrants suspected of illegally crossing the border, arrest and deport them, drawing sharp condemnation. We hear from a sheriff on the obstacles his officers face if the law is given the green light. Also tonight, a plane of U.S. citizens fleeing the violence in Haiti just landing in Florida. The plane chartered by authorities in Florida as they try to get hundreds of their state's residents out of the gang-run island nation. Our team at the airport as those Americans arrive back on U.S. soil. Escaped inmate manhunt. Corrections officers in Boise, Idaho, ambushed as they attempted to transfer a prisoner from a hospital. A suspect opening fire, shooting officers in what officials describe as a planned escape. The latest on the search and an update on the officer's conditions. Deadly stabbing outrage. Police say an 11-year-old boy was killed while protecting his pregnant mother during an attack by a man who was released on parole just 1 day before. The mother had a protective order against that suspect, and now many are asking why he was free. Mother-daughter poison plot. The mother of a Utah woman accused of fatally spiking her husband's drink may have played a role in his death. Officials releasing new details. The mother at her daughter's house just hours before her husband was allegedly killed. This as new questions over the mother's connection to another suspicious overdose death. Homework arrest. A single dad who was angry over his child's elementary school workload, calling the school and a local police department more than a dozen times to complain. His barrage of calls landing him in handcuffs. We'll explain. And fighting to the finish. A 15-year-old collapsing less than half a mile from the finish line of the Los Angeles Marathon. But with the help of his sister and an officer nearby, the team finished the race. Top Story starts right now. Good evening. I'm Ellison Barber in for Tom Llamas. Tonight, a controversial Texas immigration law on hold after a whiplash of rulings leaves the legislation in limbo. The law, which allows Texas police officers to arrest and deport those suspected of crossing the border illegally, has come under harsh criticism. The Biden administration arguing the states should not have a say and that border crossings come under federal jurisdiction. It's been a wild week for the legislation. On Monday, the Supreme Court indefinitely extended a temporary block. On Tuesday, the High Court making a decision giving the law the green light to move ahead. But just hours later, a federal appeals court blocked the law from taking effect. And today, that three-judge panel appearing skeptical as they heard arguments from the state. They have yet to issue a ruling. The contentious law drawing sharp backlash. The president of Mexico saying the country will not accept any deportations from Texas if the law were to take effect. NBC's Morgan Chesky is at the border as confusion mounts amid an impending decision.
Tonight, a controversial immigration law still on hold, 24 hours after the Supreme Court gave the green light for it to begin. Today, a federal appeals court holding a hearing over the Texas law known as SB 4, which allows state and local authorities to arrest migrants suspected of crossing the southern border illegally and allows state judges to deport them. The judges appearing skeptical of the law.
This is the first time, it seems to me, that a state has claimed that they have the right to remove illegal aliens.
Governor Greg Abbott standing by the law, saying Texas is taking action because President Biden has not stopped a record number of migrants.
What's going on the border is nothing short of catastrophic.
Texas had already placed razor wire and buoys to deter migrants from crossing illegally, moves challenged in court by the Biden administration. So far in 2024, most illegal crossings have been in Arizona and California. A trend some border officials tell NBC News is due to those tougher policies in Texas. Zapata County Sheriff Raimundo Del Bosque is in favor of the new law.
SB 4, I do support it. What we're targeting is the violence, the cartel, people that violent offenders that want to come across.
But in Maverick County, where crowds of migrants converged on Eagle Pass last fall, Sheriff Tom Schmerber has reservations.
On its face, are you in favor of SB 4? Not until I get more information how it's going to work.
And do you know when that will be?
I don't.
The sheriff concerned over where arrested migrants would go. His detention center already at capacity.
And we're here in the middle trying to see what's going to happen, but it's more like politics between the state and the federal government. That's the way I see it.
And where does that put you?
In the middle, like it's not. They're not concerned about us. It's concerned about them.
And Morgan Chesky joins us now from the U.S.-Mexico border in Eagle Pass, Texas. Morgan, despite this new law, Texas still has the legal authority to arrest and prosecute migrants. Is that right?
Yeah, Ellison, they do. They've been arresting thousands of migrants, in fact, over the last several years, but it's the way in which they do so that makes all of the difference here. They've been arresting them on criminal trespass misdemeanor charges when migrants cross over and are then found on someone's private ranch or private property, a misdemeanor charge. This, SB 4, would make crossing the border illegally a state crime and not a federal one, and that is why we're seeing this legal back and forth playing out right in front of us here. Governor Greg Abbott saying, though, that even without SB 4 being in effect, he will continue, of course, to pursue migrants for those criminal trespass charges, which are misdemeanors. Allison.
Morgan Chesky, thank you. Turning now to breaking news. The first plane chartered by the Florida government carrying U.S. citizens from Haiti is back in Florida. The plane landed moments ago at Orlando Sanford International Airport. You can see it there. It's reported that children are among the group evacuated today. NBC's Guad Venegas joins us now from that airport. Guad, what more do we know about this flight from Haiti to Florida? Who was on it? How many?
Ellison, as you mentioned, this is the first of many flights that are going to be chartered by the state here in Florida. In just minutes, the individuals on that plane are going to make their way through this baggage claim area. And the state has set up a help center over behind us here. There's a lot of state resources here, including the Red Cross, also an area for children to get some help. Now, this is what we know. The state has identified more than 500 U.S. citizens, this in cooperation with the State Department. Of those, 360 are Floridians. We know that on this first flight, they have 14 Floridians that have been repatriated. So it's going to take a lot of flights. And what they say is that it's been very challenging for them to be able to find the individuals, these U.S. citizens that have been trapped in Haiti, because remember, there hasn't been any commercial flights for over 2 weeks. So they have to go door to door using private security that has been hired in Haiti and then get them to an area where they tell us today they used the helicopter to then transport them to the landing area where the plane was able to take off. So there's a lot of logistics, a lot of challenges. They mentioned earlier today the governor was here with his team. They said, for example, there was a roadblock set up by police today that created a huge challenge. They had to get over that just to get to that plane. So all of these challenges to get the first 14. Now, they've set all of this up for more flights to keep coming in. They intend to at least get out 360 Floridians. But what they say is that as they get the individuals to the planes, they're going to use any extra space to bring in some of the other individuals because they have identified about 500 U.S. citizens asking for help to get out of the country. Now, Ellison, I should also say that there's another mission done by the State Department where they're using helicopters to transfer people from Haiti into the Dominican Republic. That's a separate mission where they're also trying to get U.S. citizens out of Haiti. Ellison?
Guad Venegas with that breaking news. Thank you. We are also following a massive manhunt in Idaho tonight. Authorities there are searching for an inmate who escaped with the help of an unknown gunman while he was being transferred from a hospital back to prison. 3 officers were shot while they fled. NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin has the late-breaking details.
Tonight, the urgent manhunt underway for an escaped inmate and an armed accomplice who ambushed officers at this Idaho hospital.
They are armed and they have shown a propensity for violence.
Police say 31-year-old Skylar Mead, shown here handcuffed and bloodied, was taken to St. Alphonsus Regional Medical Center in Boise Tuesday night for self-inflicted injuries. Then, just after 2 a.m. this morning, as Mead was about to be transported back to prison, the accomplice opened fire, shooting 2 officers, a third caught in the crossfire. Police say the suspect and inmate then fled in this gray sedan.
We believe that this was a coordinated attack, certainly a planned endeavor to free him from custody.
All three officers expect it to survive.
They could be anywhere at this point.
Investigators releasing these photos of Meade's tattoos and say he's a member of a white supremacist gang. He had been in prison for 8 years after shooting at a deputy during a high-speed chase. He was eligible for parole in 2026. Police have not identified the accomplice, but they urge the public, if you see the suspects, do not approach them, but call 911. Ellison?
Dana Griffin, thank you. We turn now to the forecast and the severe storm threat taking shape tonight. Rain and snow showers slamming parts of the Northeast and New England, bringing up to 8 inches of snow to the region. This as a new storm system takes aim at the East Coast, bringing yet another round of winter weather. So let's get right to NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, it is still not feeling like spring here in the Northeast. What is the latest on these storms?
Now, I like to call this second winter. You know, after you get that first blast of spring and everyone's like, oh, it's over. And then you're like, no, it's not. That snow is now roaring through the Northeast. I mean, these are like, snow squalls that are going through, lowering visibility, putting down a quick inch at the higher elevations. So this storm exits. It'll hit Maine later on tonight. Then we focus our attention on this next batch of snow that's going to be coming down. It doesn't look like much now. It'll actually get stronger as we go throughout, the end of this week and into the upcoming weekend. Already winter weather advisories, Bismarck, all the way through Minneapolis. And there'll be a plowable snow as we go throughout tomorrow and into tomorrow night across North Dakota. Minneapolis looks like Friday morning is when the slipperiest conditions will be from you. Central and northern Michigan, it looks like as we go throughout Friday night. And then Friday night and Saturday morning, northern New England is going to get hit hard by this. So kind of let me time this out for you. So as we go throughout the day tomorrow, mostly up in the Dakotas, rain in the south. These two storms will eventually combine as we go through Friday night. And what a mess. I mean, Friday evening is going to pour throughout all of the southeast, and then it's a really ugly Saturday morning. Washington, D.C. to New York, it's just a day to stay indoors. It's going to pour. It's going to be cold. Northern New England will get heavy, wet snow out of that, too. And, Allison, I know I teased yesterday this epic, 7-day period of snow possible in the Dakotas into Minnesota, and that's still the case. We're going to have that storm I just mentioned, and then a big one Sunday, Monday, possibility of 1 to 2 feet throughout this region. So we'll keep an eye on that, too, for the poor people that have to deal with that, too.
Yeah. All right, Bill Cairns, thank you. Next tonight, an explosive hearing on Capitol Hill today in the House impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Witnesses both supporting and refuting claims that Biden was involved in his son Hunter Biden's business dealings. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles has more.
Do you solemnly
tonight, a fiery inflection point in the impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. This is Mr. Bobulinski. This is my time.
House Republicans holding a hearing designed to feature Hunter Biden, who had asked to give public testimony, but declined to appear. Instead, the committee heard from a pair of former Hunter Biden business associates who testified, despite President Biden's denials, he was involved in his son's businesses.
He was an active, aware enabler who met with business associates such as myself to further the business.
They say Joe Biden participated in person and on speakerphone in meetings and dinners with Hunter's foreign business partners. Hunter's former business associate, Jason Galanis, testifying from prison.
The vice president said hello, some pleasantries, and then hope you had safe travels. And then said, quote, okay, you be good to my boy.
But Democrats firing back, saying there was no evidence of a crime.
With any luck, today marks the end of perhaps the most spectacular failure in the history of congressional investigations, the effort to find a high crime or misdemeanor committed by Joe Biden and then to impeach him for it.
Democrats invited Lev Parnas, a one-time associate of former President Trump's attorney Rudy Giuliani, who testified that he was tasked with digging up dirt on Biden business ventures in Ukraine.
I found precisely zero evidence of the Biden's corruption in Ukraine.
In an exclusive interview, Parnas accused Republicans of being willing accomplices of the Kremlin.
They're not getting down to the truth. All they're doing is pushing the same Russian narrative and propaganda.
And tonight, Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer saying that he will invite President Biden to testify at an upcoming hearing. Ellison?
Ryan Nobles on Capitol Hill, thank you. Turning now to former President Trump's legal battles. New developments tonight when it comes to the New York civil fraud case and his appeal to the Supreme Court for immunity in the election interference case. This comes as President Trump seeks to delay his cases ahead of the 2024 presidential election. Let's bring in former federal prosecutor Katie Cherkasky and Kelly Hyman, trial attorney and legal analyst. They're here to argue the merits of both the prosecutors and defense in these cases. Katie, let's start with you and specifically the New York civil fraud case. Attorney General Letitia James has responded to claims from Trump's team in regards to their claims that he is unable to come up with this bond money. She said this in part. Quote, if defendants were truly unable to provide an undertaking, they at a minimum should have consented to have their real estate interest held by Supreme Court to satisfy the judgment. She went on to say, yet defendants supply no documentary evidence that demonstrates precisely what real property they offered to sureties, on what terms that property was offered, or precisely why the sureties were unwilling 6 to accept the assets. I'm guessing that 6 is a typo on our end, but the crux of this quote, you were a federal prosecutor. Is that a strong argument? And what are the odds of Trump's property actually being seized?
Well, I think it's a tough sell for the Attorney General's office because this bond is so unprecedented and so high. And so essentially what Trump's team has been saying is that they've talked to 30 companies. They're not willing to give him a bond in this amount. And the appellate court has very significant authority to waive the requirement of the bond or to reduce it to a lower amount so that the appeal can proceed. And so the law is really on Trump's side in terms of the appellate court's discretion to make that decision. And they further make the point that there's really no chance that he is judgment proof. He does have real estate assets, but for purposes of securing the bond companies want liquid assets and cash. So he's not able to provide that to obtain that bond. So I think it's a tough sell for her, but certainly the call is with the appellate court on that.
Okay, yeah. So, Kelly, I mean, from the outside, as someone who does not have any sort of legal background, this just looks like a he said, she said situation where the attorney general is saying you can pay this, and then they're saying, no, we can't. And budgeting the complexities of what finances actually look like aren't always easy to clearly lay out. I mean, where does ultimately the burden of proof fall? Or is there a burden of proof, I guess, for either side to take to the appellate court and say, no, I swear we can pay, they can pay it, or I swear we can't?
Right. It looks like when you look at this, it's being showed out to the American people and kind of weighed, what do you think it should be, or is this right or wrong? But in the court of law, ultimately, it's going to be their decision based on the facts and evidence of whether he has to do that. Now, the argument is that, no, he is required to do this under New York law, and he has to do it. And then the other side of the argument is that the fact that we should still be able to proceed and appeal, that it's not fair that we have to put up this money before we get the opportunity to appeal this, because if in fact we do win, then what happens at that point? Then all of our money is tied up as well, that this is basically not fair for them to do that to them.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Trump's immunity claims. His lawyers wrote this in part to the Supreme Court. We had put this quote up. They said denial of criminal immunity would incapacitate every future president with de facto blackmail and extortion while in office and condemn him to years of post-office trauma at the hands of political opponents. Kelly, we'll start with you on this. I mean, when we talk about Trump's legal issues, we often use the word unprecedented, right? Because they are. But then when we're talking about this idea of immunity and the concept in general of sovereign immunity that comes from the UK, and we do have laws in the United States that are based on that doctrine, be it, I believe it's the Ferris Doctrine that was a 1950 Supreme Court ruling as it relates to U.S. military members, and then also another case as it relates to federal employees and tort laws that I believe the Trump legal team actually cited during the E. Jean Carroll case. When the Supreme Court is considering this, where do they start when they're trying to formulate their arguments, either agreeing or disagreeing? Do they have a lot of case law to refer to make a decision here?
The other case law, we had some issues before with Nixon when this came up as well, prior cases as well. But we have to look at what exactly Trump is saying. Trump's argument is that he has absolute immunity, that broad, very broad. So as a president, he can do basically anything. But in the law, people need to be held accountable for their actions, and no one is ultimately above the law. So the Supreme Court is going to hear these oral arguments, listen to their side of the argument that he has this general immunity, and then also listen to the other side of the argument where, in fact, there's certain limitations, that no one should have just this general broad. As a president, they can do whatever they want. And then also the fact, was he in his official capacity? So when he was giving that speech, was he acting as a president of the United States? Was that his duty, or was this more the speech more like a political rally, and that he wasn't doing it in his official capacity? That's going to be another key issue for the Supreme Court as well.
Okay, so Katie, the special counsel, Jack Smith, his brief is due. We're just ticking through all of the cases here, but his brief is due on April 8th. He's previously said that immunity should not be granted. We expect him to stick to that position. But in your view, what are special counsel Jack Smith's strongest arguments here?
Well, the immunity issue is very interesting from a constitutional perspective because the Supreme Court has never essentially laid out the outer perimeter of a criminal liability of a president. And so when we're looking at when a president is in office, they're an entire branch of government unto one person. So there is many decisions they have to make which are discretionary and which they can't be held accountable for criminally, at least at this point. So Jack Smith's point is that essentially that there shouldn't be any sort of blanket immunity. But I think the bigger question is, where does the Supreme Court draw the line in terms of the outer perimeter of the president's official duties? Because, for instance, if you have a president making military calls and people die in a military operation because of a bad call, do they have any sort of amenability to being prosecuted for like a negligent homicide? That would be a problem if you're saying that there's absolutely no immunity for decisions made by a president. And certainly there is. But the question is, how far does that extend out? So I think Jack Smith's position is going to be that there is maybe some form of immunity for official acts, but that the perimeter needs to be set outside of what these acts, January 6th, essentially implicated for the president. So it's very complicated constitutionally, but it will impact every single one of Trump's cases, especially if they rule favorably for him, which I don't think a lot of people are expecting, but it's certainly possible.
All right. Katie, Kelly, thank you both so much. We really appreciate your time and insights. Turning now to power and politics and the big primary battles playing out in several states, none more critical than the state of Ohio, where the Trump-backed Bernie Moreno won the state's Republican Senate nomination after fending off a late surge from State Senator Matt Dolan. Moreno's victory helped by Trump's endorsement, the former president headlining a rally for him last week. Moreno thanking Trump in his victory speech.
I want to thank President Trump for all he did for me, for this campaign, for his unwavering support, for his love of this country.
Moreno's victory, we're going to bring in NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch, who is in Cleveland, Ohio, and then Vaughn Hilliard, who is in Phoenix, Arizona. Jesse, let's start with you there in the Buckeye State. Trump's backing and his late push for Moreno seems to have made for a decisive victory. Is the sense there that all of the credit for Moreno's victory goes to him, but not Trump?
Yeah, so I can tell you, Ellison, that we've spoken with voters in the days leading up to this race, and we've heard a range of opinions from people on the relevance of the Trump endorsement. So there are certainly some people out there who say that the former president's endorsement was not a make-or-break thing for them when they were deciding between candidates. However, our exit polling from the primary yesterday shows Ohio Republican voters in yesterday's primary, by and large, wanted to see the next senator for the state of Ohio being someone who supports the former president. So at minimum, there's a connective tissue that people seem to have between wanting to see the senator be aligned with the former president, whether or not that means they needed to see the senator, the next senator, be the person who explicitly got the endorsement of the former president.
And with the Senate in a tight balance of power, how is the Republican Party feeling about Moreno's changes, or chances, rather, of unseating the Democrat Senator Brown?
Yeah, so going into the primary yesterday, you had two candidates who were getting a lot of attention, Moreno, and then on the other side of this, you had State Senator Matt Dolan, who was being backed by the state's governor, if you think of more of the establishment wing of the Republican Party. And the governor had said that he believes that Matt Dolan had the best chance of the Republican candidates in the race of unseating Sherrod Brown. So to be determined if that was the correct calculus or not. I can tell you that at least some in the Democratic Party think that Bernie Moreno is the best opponent for them, because there was a Democratic group that funded advertising to try to boost Moreno in the primary to make him the opponent up against Sherrod Brown in the fall, Ellison.
Vaughn, I want to bring you in over there in Phoenix. The exit polls that Jesse just mentioned, two numbers really stood out from those among Moreno's backers. It was a whopping 93% approving of Trump's job as president, and then 91% said that it is important that the next senator backs Trump. Is the Trump campaign feeling like this absolutely stamps him as being the guy who is truly in charge of the Republican Party?
Absolutely. This is affirmation yet again that this is Donald Trump's Republican Party, Ellison. Jesse was there in 2022 as well when J.D. Vance was running for the U.S. Senate in a competitive Republican primary for their other Senate seat, and Donald Trump endorsed J.D. Vance, and J.D. Vance won the race. But we saw that not only in Ohio, we saw that in places like here in Arizona, where Kari Lake rose to prominence in her 2022 governor's race. She may be lost in the general election, but like so many Republican primaries around the country in 2022, it was the Trump-backed candidates that won almost every single time in the major governor and Senate races. This go around in 2024, you're seeing that again. But Ohio's kind of a different ballgame because it was one of the only actually competitive primaries. This go around, it's pretty much the Trump-endorsed candidate and nobody else running for the Republican nomination. You could say after Donald Trump's 9 years atop this Republican Party, it's a Republican Party more in his image than ever before, Allison.
And with the primaries sort of a foregone conclusion, Trump getting 79% of the vote in Ohio, what is the Trump campaign strategy moving forward, Vaughn?
Right. This is also the issue that Jesse was discussing there. And when you look at those poll numbers or the exit polls coming out, Donald Trump is extremely popular within the Republican Party among the Republican electorate. But that 10% is notable. Or even if you look here in Arizona, which had its presidential primary yesterday, more than 20% of Arizonans selected Nikki Haley despite her not being in the race anymore. And it's those very voters, as well as independent voters in these states from Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, that cost Donald Trump the first time around in the 2020 election. And so he has to make inroads with those very voters. And so far, there's little evidence that he's doing that. And we've got just over 7 months left in what is going to be a high-stakes, intense rematch between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Trump is going to have to move some of these numbers. He has to expand his appeal outside of that Republican Party base of the electorate. Allison?
Yeah, and we've already seen the Biden campaign try to make a direct appeal to those Nikki Haley voters saying, hey, Trump says that he doesn't want your vote. Come to us. We'll see how all of it shakes out. Jesse Kirsch in Ohio, Vaughn Hilliard in Arizona. Thank you both. We appreciate it. Turning now to a tragic story out of Chicago, where an 11-year-old boy is dead after police say he was stabbed to death while trying to protect his pregnant mother. Police say the mother had an order of protection against the alleged murderer, who was out on parole for just 1 day and had multiple parole violations. NBC News correspondent Adrian Broaddus has more, and we want to warn you, this story does contain mentions of domestic violence, and many of the details are disturbing.
A young life with love for dance, now gone.
His turns were impeccable. His technique was great. I loved it.
Jaden Perkins was murdered on March 13th. He was 11 years old.
This is something that should not have happened.
1 day after he was paroled, police say this man, Crissetti Brand, a convicted felon with a history of domestic abuse, forced himself into the apartment of Jaden and his mother and began stabbing her. Police say Jaden was trying to protect his mom, who is pregnant.
Victim 2, the 11-year-old child, had been stabbed in his upper chest. The chest wound had cut victim 2's carotid artery, killing him.
Mom and her unborn child survived.
She has to face the fact that she will never see, touch, hug her 11-year-old son. She's lost him forever.
According to authorities, Jaden's mom dated the suspect 15 years ago, and court records show she had an order of protection against him. Now, outrage over why Brand was free.
The defendant has a history of domestic violence and had only been recently released from serving a sentence from a prior conviction. The victim had an order of protection against him from previous encounters, and this history paints a disturbing pattern of behavior.
Here's a look at that alleged pattern. Brand was released in October 2023 after serving 8 years of a 16-year sentence for home invasion and other crimes, including the domestic abuse of another woman. At the time, state officials say he was reminded of the order of protection against him filed in 2005 by Jaden's mother. 3 months after his release, Jaden's mother alleges in a court filing that Brand sent her a threatening text message. 2 days later, that same court filing alleges he went to her and Jaden's home and tried to open the door. Details Jaden's mother put in her request for a new order of protection soon after, writing Brand, quote, sent me several text messages saying he would kill me and my family. He would wait outside my house and shoot me. Prosecutors say Brand was taken back into custody for violating his parole, only to be released again a few weeks later on March 12th, 1 day before the deadly attack.
This gentleman was paroled after being sent back to prison in February for violating parole and violating a protective order is utterly beyond me, but it absolutely could be prevented. In this case, I think the parole board has to be held accountable.
Now, Jaden is remembered as a devoted son and brother who played football, had a passion for acting, and who was the heartbeat of his dance school.
When I received my scholarship from Gus, I was like, oh my God, seriously? I always wanted to go here.
And they love him, honoring Jaden with a video and a message. We love you, Jaden. You will forever be in our hearts.
And Adrian Broaddus joins us now from Chicago. Adrian, this is just a gut-wrenching story, horrific in every way, and that little boy, just such a beautiful spirit. What charges, though, is this suspect now facing? And do we know how the mother is physically doing tonight?
It is a tough story. We will start with his mom. I spoke with the director of the dance school, and she told me Jaden's mom and her unborn child are home recovering. As far as Brand, the suspect in this case, he's expected to appear before a judge next month. He's facing charges of murder, attempted murder, and home invasion. Also in the home on the day of that attack was Jaden's 6-year-old brother, who was unharmed. But Ellison, as you mentioned, so much joy. You see his excitement when he learned he received a scholarship to attend Gus, where he specialized in all styles of dance, including ballet. Back to you.
Jaden is the name we will certainly remember tonight. Adrian Broaddus, thank you so much. We appreciate you and your reporting. Still ahead tonight, a deadly home explosion in Utah. The blast leveling a house outside of Salt Lake City, who authorities say was inside at the time. Plus, an update on the children's book author accused of poisoning her husband. Why authorities believe her mother might have been involved in that death, and another case from 2006. And one student's workload landing his father in handcuffs. We'll play you the repeated calls that dad made to police over the amount of work being assigned to his son, who's in elementary school. Stay with us. We're back now with another twist in the case against Utah mother Cory Richens, who's accused of poisoning and killing her husband in 2022. In newly unsealed documents, investigators say Richens' mother might have played a key role in her son-in-law's death. They're even seeking to link her to the unexpected death of her own romantic partner back in 2006. NBC's Dana Griffin joins us again with the latest on this case.
Tonight, new details revealing that police believe the Utah author, wife and mother accused of poisoning her husband in 2022 may have had help from her own mother. A newly unsealed search warrant affidavit shows Cory Richens' mother, Lisa Darden, was at her daughter and son-in-law's house the night they celebrated a new business deal, just hours before Eric Richens was found dead in the home with 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl. Darden speaking to CBS 48 Hours just a few weeks ago.
3 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call, and it was Cory, and she said, get up here, something's happened to Eric.
The affidavit also detailing conversations Darden had with her daughter about her disdain for Eric. The warrant included a search of Darden's phone records. After his death, Richens went on to write a grief book and speak about him on TV.
Just because he's not present here with us physically, that doesn't mean his presence isn't here with us.
But these new documents also revealing the mother's connection to another death. Investigators discovering Darden's romantic partner died unexpectedly from an oxycodone overdose in 2006. Further investigation showing Darden had been made a beneficiary of the woman's estate a short time before her death. The detective concluding that based on Lisa Darden's proximity to her partner's suspicious overdose death and her relationship to Cory, it is possible she was involved in planning and orchestrating Eric's death.
Seeing that mom was with Cory Richens the night of her husband's death, and seeing that we have 2 drug overdoses of partners, that can change things all these years later.
Darden has not been charged in either case and could not be reached for comment.
If Lisa Darden, mom, is charged as an accomplice or a party to the crime of Cory Richens' husband's death, then I think it's fair to expect that prosecutors are going to file a motion with the court and say, look, we want evidence to come in of the prior death of her partner, even if she was never charged with it.
Cory Richens' attorney slamming the allegation, saying the fact that Miss Darden's significant other was one of the millions that suffered from and ultimately succumbed to opioid addiction is hardly suspicious. It's tragic and unfortunately quite common. Going on to say the fact that Miss Darden was a beneficiary of her romantic partner's life insurance policy is also not unique. It only demonstrates that her circumstances are no different than most families in America.
And Dana Griffin joins us now from Los Angeles. I mean, Dana, this story, it's hard to keep up with all of the twists and turns. Could Cory's mom actually face charges for the death of her son-in-law?
Well, Ellison, that's the big question. It's possible because Utah has an accomplice liability law that states if you have criminal intent and assisted in any way, you could be facing the same punishment as the actual killer. But like we mentioned, no charges have been filed against Lisa Darden. Ellison?
Dana Griffin, thank you again. We appreciate it. Next to a string of aggressive phone calls that landed one Ohio father in handcuffs. The man flooding his local police station and his son's elementary school with calls because he felt like his son was being assigned too much homework. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster has those phone calls and more on the arrest.
You gotta stick up for your son. It's okay.
This Ohio dad, Adam Sizemore, arrested after police say he repeatedly called his child's elementary school and then the police station, making profanity-laced demands.
We're talking about homework here. This gentleman was mad that his son was getting homework.
Oxford Police Department.
Yeah, who am I talking to?
Sizemore harassing the station's operator, calling more than 18 times in just an hour, according to police.
What do you need help with?
I need to talk to the chief.
Okay, well then I will transfer you to his office.
No.
Eventually leaving voicemails like this one.
Yeah, this is Adam Sizemore. You've got a little bit of an chewing coming.
He had been calling Oxford, Ohio's kindergarten through 5th grade Kramer Elementary School repeatedly as well, according to a police report filed by the school's resource officer, who told police Sizemore's crude language and messages targeted the principal and staff.
So it's not like we're talking about large book reports or anything here, but he just did not want his child to have any homework so that he could have more time to spend with his son.
Police say they started getting concerned when Sizemore allegedly admitted on the calls that he was high and made vague threats toward the principal.
His behavior became a little bit more aggressive. You know, the school, the children, you want to make sure everybody's safe.
At the station, Sizemore demanding to speak with the chief again.
But I'm not calling him on the phone.
He can come to my house. I pay for him.
Finally pushing the operator a step too far.
Sir, Police Department.
Yeah, ma'am, I'd like to talk to the chief.
Okay, and I have transferred you up there, so you need to leave him a voicemail.
I'm not going to leave a voicemail.
Okay, well, I'm going to send some officers out to your house to talk to you in person since you won't stop calling.
Police saying he was charged with 2 counts of telecommunications harassment and 1 count of menacing. All misdemeanors that can carry jail time and fines if he's found guilty. Sizemore telling NBC News that most of the accusations are not true. A spokesperson for the Talawanda School District, where Kramer Elementary School is located, saying they have no additional information beyond what's in the police report.
What did the chief think of this?
He filled up the chief's voicemail box, let's just put it that way. So the chief was kind of confused. He doesn't have a whole lot to do with homework. So.
And Shaq Brewster joins us now. Shaq, so what is next for that father? It sounds like he actually could be facing some time behind bars.
Potentially, Ellison. That dad, Adam Sizemore, has been released from jail. We expect to see him in court later this month. If he's convicted of those misdemeanor counts that he's facing, he can face up to about a year behind bars or up to $2,000 in fines. And I should give a shout out to our friends at today.com for the amazing reporting they did on this early on. They spoke to the dad. It was a full team effort as we brought you this reporting, Ellison.
Shaq Brewster, thank you. We appreciate you and our colleagues at Today. Thank you. When we come back, a security breach reported at the Salt Lake City airport. A man accused of getting on a plane without a ticket by taking photos of other passengers' boarding passes. The FBI investigation now underway. That's next. We're back with Top Stories news feed, and we begin with the deadly home explosion in Utah. New video shows the debris field around the destroyed house in American Fork. That's about 32 miles southeast of Salt Lake City. Police say 2 women were home in separate apartments at the time of the blast. 1 woman was killed. The other escaped with her dog. No word yet on the cause. A grandmother in New Jersey injured after falling down an elevator shaft. Authorities say the elevator door opened, but the woman did not realize the elevator itself wasn't there. She stepped into the elevator shaft from the first floor, plummeting down to the basement while her young grandchild watched from the landing. The grandmother suffering a broken elbow and a stomach injury. The elevator is now under inspection. And the FBI investigating a security breach at a Salt Lake City International Airport. Authorities say a 26-year-old man passed through TSA with a Southwest boarding pass, but was captured on a security camera taking photos of other passengers' boarding passes at a Delta gate. He was able to board an Austin-bound flight with one of those photos. The breach was discovered before the plane took off, and he was removed and arrested. Turning now to a major announcement today in Arizona, a critical swing state. President Biden pledging billions of dollars in tech grants that he says will create tens of thousands of jobs. All of it part of a bipartisan effort to reduce American reliance on tech companies in China and Taiwan. Senior business correspondent Christine Romans from Arizona tonight.
President Biden today in the critical swing county of Maricopa, Arizona, with a multi-billion-dollar delivery.
We will enable advanced semiconductor manufacturing to make a comeback here in America after 40 years.
Mr. Biden announcing $8.5 billion in grants and $11 billion more in loans to semiconductor manufacturer Intel, money from the Bipartisan CHIPS Act passed in 2022. The money going toward the construction and expansion of Intel facilities in Arizona, Ohio, New Mexico, and Oregon.
Combined, it will create nearly 20,000 construction jobs.
Here in Chandler, Arizona, 6,000 construction workers are building 2 chip plants known as fabs, projected to host 3,000 manufacturing jobs. Executives and government officials alike say the investment is essential to competing with China.
It isn't just a question of our national security, it's every aspect of our economy as well. And these are great jobs.
Why is it so important to have semiconductors manufactured in the United States?
Semiconductors, advanced semiconductors in particular, are used in so many important defense weapon systems, in satellites, in all kinds of areas that are vital to our national security. And so it's critical to have the manufacturing of advanced semiconductors coming back to America.
The owner of Chandler restaurant Gadzooks, Aaron Poole, welcomes the investment and the foot traffic it could mean after years of people working from home.
In a fab shop, you actually have to go in to work.
And he hopes out for lunch. Poole says business owners like him are in a paradox.
Well, now we're at a point where you can't raise prices anymore. Consumer won't allow it.
But he says he has no choice but to raise wages. 19-year-old cashier Talia Palahalani brings home $1,300 every 2 weeks.
It's good that you get paid more, I guess. But then at the end of the day, it's like everything's so expensive. It's like you're not really getting much out of it.
Affordability top of mind here in Maricopa County. Over the past 4 years, home prices up 53%. Rents have surged 37%. People left to figure out how to make it all add up.
We said people are paid more, but everything costs more.
Right. And we just have to do more with less.
And Christine Romans joins us now from Chandler, Arizona. Christine, why is the issue of chip manufacturing so important for the president right now?
Look, this was a project born out of a necessity to make sure that you had domestic manufacturing of these chips. Remember after COVID, when all of those supply chains were so snarled, and it became very apparent that the U.S. was at a disadvantage, especially if there was some sort of conflict in Asia, where China were trying to take over Taiwan, where most chips are made, you would have the U.S. at a disadvantage. So this was the incentive there. But what the president was really pushing here today also was the jobs aspect. How many jobs are going to be created across the country? Tens of thousands of jobs, and then the multiplier effect after that. So a real look at, one, the tech arms race that the U.S., high-tech arms race that the U.S. is in with China, and the importance of, securing our national security, America's national security, by having domestic manufacturing of these chips, but also the added benefit of what that money will do in the American economy. Allison.
Christine Romans in Arizona, thank you. Coming up next, terrifying moments overseas. Residents in Slovakia fleeing in terror as a bear came charging through their town. Multiple people injured. Where authorities say that bear is tonight. We're back with new drama involving the British royals and questions about Princess Kate's health. An investigation is now underway into whether Kate's medical records were breached at the hospital where she underwent abdominal surgery. NBC News international correspondent Molly Hunter is in London with more.
Tonight, a serious allegation of a data breach at the London hospital where the Princess of Wales had surgery back in January. Multiple UK news outlets reporting 3 staff members at the London clinic are being investigated for allegedly trying to access Kate's personal medical information, which NBC News has not confirmed. The UK government privacy watchdog confirmed to NBC News they received a breach report, but didn't share whether it included one or more allegations. Kensington Palace not confirming whether or not Kate has been notified, referring questions to the London clinic, which in a statement said, in the case of any breach, all appropriate investigatory, regulatory and disciplinary steps will be taken.
Even if it's someone who was just feeling a little bit nosy, they should not have been able to access her record.
King Charles was there in January for his prostate procedure. Tonight, Buckingham Palace wouldn't comment on whether or not the King's medical data was affected. The allegation of a data breach comes amid continued scrutiny as photo agencies review past handout photos from the royal family. The Getty Photo Agency and Reuters now calling into question numerous digital inconsistencies in this photo taken by Kate in August of 2022. All signs that unless Kensington Palace fills the void, the headlines will keep coming.
Ellison, as far as what's next, the hospital still hasn't confirmed to NBC News that they are, in fact, investigating these 3 staffers. But data breach is a serious violation of British law, and the health minister says hefty implications could include prosecution or fines. Ellison?
Molly Hunter outside of Buckingham Palace. Turning now to top stories Global Watch, starting with the bomb threat made against Dodgers star Shohei Ohtani. South Korean authorities say a threat was called into the Seoul Sky Dome during the MLB's first regular season game in the country, which was packed with fans. No bombs were found, allowing the game to continue. In another headline involving Ohtani, we've just learned his interpreter and close friend was fired from the Dodgers over allegations he's stolen millions from the star to cover gambling debts. Ohtani signed a historic $700 million contract with the Dodgers in December. And residents of a Slovakian town on high alert after a bear attacked 5 people. New surveillance video shows the brown bear charging through a city, sending people fleeing. 5 people, ranging in age from 10 to 72, were hurt. We do not know the extent of their injuries. According to officials, the bear spent about 20 minutes in residential areas before heading back into the woods. It was not caught, and armed patrols are now standing by. When we come back, fight to the finish. A 15-year-old runner collapsing in the final stretch of the Los Angeles Marathon. The powerful moments his mom, his sister, and one of LA's finest stepped in to help him finish what he started. Finally tonight, the inspiring moment at the Los Angeles Marathon this weekend. A 15-year-old boy less than half a mile from the finish line collapsing to the ground. But with a little help from his sister and a police officer nearby, that teen still managing to fight to the finish.
In a sea of more than 20,000 runners at this year's Los Angeles Marathon, one incredible story of resilience.
He didn't know if he finished.
15-year-old Leobardo Dorado had already hit the 26-mile marker. He was just a few hundred yards from the finish line when he collapsed and fell to the ground. LAPD Sergeant Jay Balhimino was nearby.
We requested an ambulance, and there was a medic that responded right away. Then we looked at the bib number in the back, and there's a contact info, so we called the mom who was waiting for him in the finish line. And the first thing he asked is, did I finish? But the mom looked at me as like, he really didn't finish, but he wanted to finish. I could help him. He said, I want to finish.
Refusing to give up, Leobardo put his arms around his sister and Sergeant Balhimino and fought on, putting one foot in front of the other while the crowd cheered him on. But just feet from the finish line, Leobardo's legs completely giving out. Balhimino lifting him up in his arms, his sister carrying his legs. The three of them crossing the finish line together.
You got it, dude! I'm really proud of that boy, and if I could talk to that boy, I'd say, you're outstanding. You inspired me. Maybe I'll run the marathon next year because of you.
Leobardo shying from the spotlight when asked to speak, but his mother saying in a statement to NBC Los Angeles, "We are very proud of Leobardo Dorado. It is his second marathon, and we're very appreciative of the people that helped him."
It's a great story, the reminder, and it's true for anyone too. Like, if you really want it, you can do this. Anyone can finish a marathon. You just have to have that heart and the willingness to get there.
One young boy with a powerful reminder of what it means to never give up.
All the kudos goes to the kid. The kid did the work. He ran the marathon on his own. All right, I just helped him, push him in the end to get him to the finish line.
Thank you so much for watching Top Story. For Tom Llamas, I'm Ellison Barber in New York. Stay right there. More news now is on the way.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.